They dumped her like garbage. Drugged. Confused. Alone. What they didn't know. Her son was FBI. Outside a quiet police station, an elderly woman slumped in a wheelchair. She looked lost. Drifting. No ID. No phone. Nothing but a folder taped to her chair. Unclaimed. Officers stared, baffled. She couldn't tell them where she lived. Couldn't say her name. She barely remembered her own son. But this wasn't dementia. It wasn't confusion. It was chemical. And the HOA? They made sure it was. Back in Westridge Valley, a wealthy, picture-perfect suburb, the new HOA president had a problem with tomatoes. Yes. Tomatoes. And Eleanor Hadley, age 85, dared to grow them. Her punishment? Drugged with sedatives, kidnapped, and dumped 2 towns over, like a piece of trash no longer matching the HOA's aesthetic values. Too bad for them. Her son's job? Hunting down cartels. And this time, it was personal. It all started on a sunny weekend in Westridge Valley. Kids on scooters. Lawns freshly mowed. Neighbors smiling in yoga pants with iced coffees. In the middle of it all was Eleanor Hadley, sweet, soft-spoken, and stubborn in the best way. She'd been part of this neighborhood for over 30 years. Raised 2 boys here. Buried a husband. Baked cookies for every HOA bake sale. But things changed when Carla Beck moved in. Carla was HOA's new president. Tall. Blonde. Type A energy. Always holding a clipboard, always frowning. She fined people for their mailbox color. Cited residents for parking 3 inches past the curb. But Eleanor? She made the fatal mistake of growing vegetables. Tomatoes don't belong in the front yard, Carla hissed one day, standing on Eleanor's porch. They're for eating. Eleanor smiled. Not decoration. That didn't go over well. First came the violation letters. Then the fines. Then came Carla herself, with 2 HOA board members flanking her like bodyguards, demanding Eleanor comply or relocate. But Eleanor stood her ground. The next week, she disappeared. David Hadley got the call at 5:42 a.m. This is Officer Reed's. We have an elderly woman in protective custody. She says she's your mother? 2 towns away. David's blood froze. By the time he reached the station, Eleanor was sitting in a wheelchair by the lobby window. Her eyes were glassy. She barely recognized him. She spoke slowly. Mumbled. What day is it, sweetie? David, a decorated FBI agent with 14 years in the field, had seen drug overdoses, memory loss, sedation. He knew the signs. Blood tests confirmed it. Lorazepam. Heavy dosage. Enough to knock out a grown man, let alone an 85-year-old. But who would do this? He checked security footage. A black SUV. No plates. No one got out. They just wheeled her to the curb. Left her. Drove off. Back in Westridge, her house was untouched. No break-in. No struggle. Only one thing was missing. Her tomatoes. David didn't just file a report. He opened an investigation. He subpoenaed HOA records. Dug through financials. Called in favors. Tracked down every board meeting Eleanor had attended. And what he found? Terrifying. A secret HOA fund labeled Compliance Enforcements. Nearly $40,000 spent over 6 months on relocation logistics and wellness services. Every charge matched a date when an elderly resident mysteriously moved away. David interviewed one of the treasurers off the record. The man cracked in 10 minutes. She calls it pruning the neighborhood, he whispered. Says seniors lower resale value. She said Eleanor was next. David clenched his fists. This wasn't HOA drama. It was systemic abuse. He loaded up the case file, geared up, and drove straight to the next HOA meeting. This time, he wasn't coming as a son. He was coming as the law. The community center was packed. Carla stood at the front, smug as ever, reading off the week's infractions like a queen doling out punishment. Then the doors opened. David walked in. Not in casual clothes. In full FBI tactical gear. He held a thick folder in one hand, a federal warrant in the other. "This HOA is under active federal investigation," he announced. The room gasped. Carla tried to speak. "You can't." David cut her off. "Carla Beck, you are being charged with conspiracy, elder abuse, unlawful sedation, and organized fraud." 2 agents flanked her. She turned to run, didn't make it 3 steps. The neighbors watched in silence as she was cuffed and led out. One woman clapped. Then another. Then the whole room stood. Justice had arrived. Eleanor's recovery was slow. She still couldn't recall how they drugged her. Or who helped. But she remembered her garden. The empty patch where her tomatoes used to grow. David replanted it himself. Word spread fast. Neighbors brought casseroles. Flowers. Apologies. The HOA was disbanded. A new board was elected. Strict guidelines were put in place to protect the elderly and disabled. And Carla? She's serving time, not just for Eleanor, but for every name on that relocation list. David went back to work. But his mission was no longer just global. It was personal. Every spring now, that little garden in front of Eleanor's home blooms with tomatoes. Dozens of them. Each one planted by a neighbor, in tribute to the woman they nearly lost. And the son who refused to let her become a statistic.